Let's continue our conversation and keep it moving here. I'm going to bring in now, once again, my colleague Austin Westfall, and joining us is political analyst Brian Sobel. Brian, Austin, good to see you both. It's been a trek these last few hours with all of these results that we continue to get in, all of these big headlines that we're following. And Brian, I'm going to start with you and really just pose the question, what is your big story of Election Day? What were you most interested by?
I think the Harris campaign, at the end of the day, really underperformed, and that there's just no two ways about it. And also, there's this old adage in politics that the economy leads the way, and I think a lot of Americans today looked at the economy. And as they have in the past, decided that the economy is not where they want it to be. And all these other ancillary issues that Kamala Harris was running on and talking about weren't resonating. And I think that accounts for much of her, for many of her problems. And, the fact that she wouldn't sit down and do an interview with anybody, and her speeches were, incomplete. She didn't make her case to the American people. She clearly said that Donald Trump was not good. She didn't like him, but she didn't say what she was going to bring to the American people. And I think her message at the end of the day just did not resonate.
So, Brian, let's go through the map that we've been staring at this entire night. I'm going to just go through the battlegrounds that are still in question right now. Wisconsin has not officially been called by the Associated Press, but with 92% of the votes tallied, right now we're seeing Trump with about a 4-point advantage. As far as Michigan goes, 4/5 of the vote have been counted. Trump has roughly a 7-point advantage in that state. Let's pull up Pennsylvania as well. Right now, 96% of the vote counted. The AP has called this one officially in favor of Trump. He is up by over 2 points, almost 3 points. When you look at these figures, Brian, we've been talking with you so often in recent weeks, recent months, about how close this race is. Your initial reaction to seeing how well Trump is performing in some of these battlegrounds?
You bring up a great point, Austin. I have said for the longest time, this is a 1 to 2.5 point race. And you're seeing that Trump is outperforming that line, as it were, in many of these states, through all of the battleground states that were just razor thin margins in the polling. He's done better. I think there were a lot of people holding back in these various states. Either they weren't talking to pollsters, or they were just going to go into the polling booth, or they were going to send in their ballot, whatever, and vote for Trump and not say much about it. And that's clear because you have this spread that's appearing in all these states. And don't forget that Donald Trump tonight wins the popular vote going away as well.
I like that point that you just brought up there, the fact that Donald Trump may be winning the popular vote here as well. How surprising is that for you to see, Brian? Because, if we reflect back to 2016, yes, he won the presidency, but it was Hillary Clinton that won the popular vote during that election cycle. So this is quite different what we're seeing here, not quite deja vu.
No, but there have only been 5 presidents in the history of the United States that received more popular votes than their opponent, but lost in the Electoral College. If Trump had lost tonight, he would have been the 6th, but that's not the case. And I think the numbers, when this is all said and done, are going to be rather stunning in favor of Donald Trump, at least as we look at it at this hour. There are a lot of ballots out there still, but you start watching trends, and if you've watched as many elections as guys like I have, you don't change the percentages very easily. It takes huge movements of people to do that. And so I think Donald Trump's on his way to as I said on one other television interview, I think he's on his way to a blowout tonight.
Yeah, this would be the first popular vote he's won in the 3 elections that he's participated in.
Right.
This is going to be a real fascinating point. We just brought this up with Christina. I want to get your take on it as well. Osceola County, just south of Orlando. This is a fascinating county. About a third of the population there is Puerto Rican. Of course, comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, some of that joke that was made at Madison Square Garden yesterday, a lot of headlines about that. And there was a lot of questions over whether that would hurt Trump's chances in counties like Osceola. I'll give you some numbers, Brian. Right now, with 99% of the votes tallied, Trump winning Osceola County by 50% to Harris's 48%. So basically, Trump winning it by 1.5 points. Let's go back 4 years. Trump lost this very same county by 14 points just 4 years ago. Talk about not only the significance of hearing that in the context of the joke last week, but also in the context of such a big swing in a county like Osceola.
I think other issues, including the economy, immigration, and numerous other things, overshadowed a joke made by a comedian at Madison Square Garden that Trump may or may not even have heard. I think people set aside that kind of thing for the greater good. And I think Puerto Rican folks, when they are interviewed here over the next few days, are going to say, hey, didn't like the joke, didn't like it at all, but it wasn't Trump who made the joke, number one. And number two is this is a person that has reached out and done, I think we will find, very well with Black folks, young people, young men in particular, women. He's kind of covered the board a little bit, and that is going to account for his victory tonight.
Brian, something else that I found interesting when we talk about the Harris campaign and kind of this platform that she ran on, she did want to focus a lot on these reproductive rights for women, almost kind of going back to this thought of the overturning of Roe v. Wade by Supreme Court justices that Donald Trump had appointed. How did that, or did it backfire in any way? What kind of messaging did Trump have? Did it kind of sway it his way, where people also almost didn't mind this whole kind of idea and narrative that the Harris campaign was trying to paint on the Trump campaign, that, you know, Harris is the one that's going to really care about reproductive rights?
Well, we'll have to see, but I think Donald Trump did a pretty good job of trying to explain that nobody was taking away anyone's rights. The reproductive rights question was going back to the states, for each state to make their own decision. And Kamala Harris was basically trying to pin anything on Trump that she could, including the fact that he, Donald Trump, was the one who stole the rights of women in America. I think women in America took a little harder look at that and said, well, yeah, Roe v. Wade was taken away, but you know, there were a lot of Democrats and Republicans and jurists and judges who all said it should be a states' right issue. So I'm not sure at the end of the day that resonated the way that the Harris campaign thought it would.
All right, Brian. So let's not let it get lost on us that this was a historic presidential cycle. This one had twists. This one had turns. This one was crazy. I mean, there's no other word to use for it. July specifically. I mean, we saw 2 different assassination attempts. We saw President Biden going from being the guy to saying, I'm no longer the guy, his vice president, picking up where he left off, and very, very quickly putting together a presidential campaign. Can you put this into context for us? What have we experienced in these past few months? And I'll use the word again, just how crazy at times did we just go through?
Well, it was Mr. Toad's wild ride. You know, it just, like you say, it was just a crazy experience. Everything that happened. You know, one of the things that we will spend more time on is the fact that Kamala Harris was able to run a campaign of 107 days. And $1 billion. And she should have been able to spend that better, I think. But 107 days is 107 days. And one of the questions that will be asked, I think, over and over again is why didn't Democrats ask President Biden to leave the race, much earlier? And the answer may have been he wasn't going to leave the race. He wasn't going to take that decision. But that was just one of those elements. The assassination attempt in Butler was another. The possible assassination attempt at the golf course in Florida, another. It goes on and on. This was really, really a unique campaign in American history. But as somebody who has studied a lot of campaigns in American history, we've had some doozies. If you think back to the animus between Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr that arose from presidential politics and politics in general, that ended up, I would remind our viewers, in a duel where Alexander Hamilton was shot and killed by Aaron Burr. So, I mean, we've got a lot of interesting things in American history. Thomas Jefferson, third president of the United States, took him 35 ballots in the House of Representatives to become president. So we've got many, many examples. And as I like to say, and quote Mark Twain, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
It's the one thing we didn't see this cycle as an actual duel, Brian. Sorry, Correll, I didn't mean to step on.
Yeah, well.
No, that's totally fine, you guys. I do want to interrupt, though, for a little bit here. I want to bring up this. We do have a graphic. Nevada, very close to calling this race. 93% of those estimated votes counted here. Donald Trump up by 52%, Harris by 47%. And then I also have this, a look at Wisconsin as well. 92% of those estimated votes counted. Trump still leading here, 51%. And Harris at 47%, so similar to what we're seeing in Nevada. Brian, I guess my next question with this is, what's next for the Democratic Party here? How do they move forward? How do they regroup? How do they, take control of even this situation?
They are going to have to do a real look in the mirror. The idea that certain ethnic groups in particular are just going to vote Democrat because they've always voted Democrat, they're going to have to take a hard look at that. Even the Puerto Rican community. Obviously, Donald Trump spoke to a lot of people in the Puerto Rican community, as he did in the Black community, the Latino community, the Hispanic community. He did all that. And again, it all circles back oftentimes to, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And the answer for a lot of these people is no. And we tend to place these various groups in a kind of a monolithic category. Everybody who's Black thinks something. Everybody who's Latino thinks something. That couldn't be further from the truth. On an issue like immigration, you may have opinions all over the board, even among the Latino and Hispanic community, where a lot of these illegal immigrants are coming from in South America and other places, Mexico. And so knowing that illegal immigrants can come into the United States and take the jobs of hardworking recent immigrants, that doesn't play well. And if they're voters, they say, hey, I'm voting for the person that is going to protect my job. Again, the economy.
Although our partner, the Associated Press, hasn't officially called the presidential race yet, we know which way that race is leaning. We also officially know that the Republicans have taken control of the Senate, Brian. We're looking at our House map right now. The magic number is 218. Neither party has been able to claim 218 right now. 194 for Republicans, 175 for Democrats. You're based in California. I know there's a number of toss-up races in your home state that'll help decide the balance of power. Tell us about those races and tell us about how long of a wait we might be in.
Well, I don't think the wait will be long. I think data will come in by tomorrow or over the next couple of days, unless the race is contested. If it falls within a certain percentage, 0.5% or 1%, there's an automatic recount. You may have some of that, but you've got 5 or 6 races in California that could go either way. maybe 4 or 5, and that would change those numbers. So we don't know about the balance of power yet in the House of Representatives. We obviously do with the Senate with some great certainty. And yes, Associated Press hasn't called the presidential race yet, but I think that's imminent.
All right, Brian here, Brian Sobel, political analyst. Brian, I know it's been a very long day with so many of these races that we've been tracking, but I do just want to ask if there's anything you feel that you would like to add, maybe even in this election cycle as a whole, before I let you go.
Thank you for that. I would just have viewers think about a couple of things. One is the whole dynamic of our political system has been changed tonight. We will have a president-elect and vice president-elect for the next 90 days or so. But meanwhile, you're going to have countries around the world that will now start pivoting away from Joe Biden towards Donald Trump. And how that plays out is serious business. What is Zelensky thinking tonight? What is Putin thinking? Bibi Netanyahu in Israel. All of these things are going to come into focus very, very soon. And so I would to first before we sign off, or before I do tonight, if you got out and voted, fantastic, good for you. The next 90 days are going to be very interesting to watch.
Truly a true statement there, Brian Sobel, because of course, I mean, we call these elections here, we're kind of watching it, but it's not just one day, isn't it? It's really the trajectory of these next 4 years, especially these next 90 days. Brian Sobel, political analyst, my colleague here, Austin Westfall, always appreciate your guys' time. We'll talk soon.
Great seeing you both, and chat soon.